This conference will now be recorded.
Y'all ready? Y'all good down there? I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. As always, let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. Do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Have a couple items need to add. 8A is a supplemental appropriation from the schools. 8B is board supervisor compensation. And then I think that's it. Anybody else have anything we need to add to the agenda? Mr. Weekly, anything?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody? What would y'all like to do?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, as always, general public comment. Is there any general public comment? Anybody, is anybody watching us online? We're solid. All right, we'll do it again later. Constitutional officers, county departments, committees, and organizations. Brian, how are things going?
I can do mine now, or I can wait till 5, whichever you want to do.
What do you have other than 5?
Just learning right now.
All right, yeah, that works. Anybody have any questions for Brian?
No, sir.
All right, Ligon? Yeah, we should. Let's do the mic thing. Kim does say we're doing a lot better on the mics. Is that right? Good.
Hello. So just to follow up from our public hearing the other night, always something new, so that was a new one with the kennel. I won't steal Hannah's thunder, but with the 2-2 vote, it looks as if the applicant just wants to reapply. That is allowable. The state code provision, if you have adopted it, if it is denied, which again, I don't know if that's totally the case, then the applicant would have to wait a year. That's not the case. We haven't adopted that. It's not our code. So they want to dramatically, I say dramatically, but significantly change the condition. Basically reduce the number of dogs that could go outside significantly. So they want to bring that back forward. I encouraged them, give a little period, talk to neighbors, maybe looking at the beginning of February for a joint meeting. So you can expect that. But otherwise, a few other things. There are no hearings for the planning commission, no significant hearings. A couple of by right subdivisions. There's two things I want to start working on. One's an amendment to our parking ordinance, and that was requested Dr. Fartis. Dr. Fartis?
Yeah.
Very simple amendment, which I think makes some sense. And also, I want to look at junk cars. Maybe beefing this up a little bit for junk cars. We've gotten some complaints, and we know some of the older places in the county where people have junk cars, and to a certain extent, there's not a lot we can do about that. But new ones have popped up. A very significant one has popped up out of the blue on Jack's shop, and it's upset the neighbors, and I understand. I just think we could beef it up a little bit. The way it's written now, it's pretty vague, and if it's operable, then it's not considered a junk car. I think it needs to be, if it's not titled or licensed, you can have, say, up to 5, unless they're concealed behind a fence where you can't see them. Give people some options that if they conceal cars, maybe we'd be a little bit flexible. But I do believe that the last few years, we've had some folks just sort of out of the blue, all of a sudden start collecting junk cars, and it's not fun for the neighbors, and I get it, they're upset. So I think we're going to work on that next week with the Planning Commission. On the comp plan, we did meet last week, had a really good meeting with the committee. We got 260 survey responses that we sent out, that some of you might have saw. I thought it was really good. I thought the surveys were kind of what I predicted to a large degree. A lot of good comments, and if you did get a copy, I just sent it out. If you did read it, it's pretty fascinating. That will be an addendum, the whole survey in the comp plan. So anyway, always read that. So we're still moving toward, I'm having a final draft move to this committee. Right now, looking at 1/18, January 18th is being where that complete draft will be done. And of course, I'll share it with each of you. And other than that, Charles, it's been great working with you. I know this is your last meeting, but I appreciate you. It's been a great 4 years since I started. You were the first board member I met, so I appreciate you reaching out there very at the beginning. And it's been a pleasure, and I wish you very well on your future, your retirement.
Okay, thank you very much.
Government service. Any other questions?
Did think the comp plan went very well. I do think that the majority of the comments that were made, if everybody has not read them, y'all have to read them. There's a lot of amusing comments in there, and good entertainment. And it's good to see that everybody's kind of on the same page across the county. That's what the uniformity that's what it looked like to me.
I kind of took it as people aren't against new things or new development, but they, pretty much, people in Madison treasure the rural area, the views.
They aren't against it, as long as it's nowhere near them in any way.
That's usually how it works. But yeah, there's a lot of consistency in a lot of the comments, so I think that makes it easier to sort of predict what people would like to see or don't like to see. So
The only other one I've got is, the town has what, you can have 5 cars without license plates on them. We don't have anything in place
If they have that, that's really what the state code
Yeah.
says. You're allowed to have up to 5 exposed to the environment. That's that inoperable. But, it can easily get beyond that. Some folks, they'll put a hood in front of the lights, but they'll try to cover it to give you a reason not to know if it's properly tagged. But it sounds like the town is following the state code.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've told people, look, if you conceal it, people can't see it, it's probably not gonna be a problem. We're not going around looking for people but this one particular one on Jack's shop, it's our dealership or some sort of fixed, auto shop in Charlottesville. And he literally, over the course of a few months, has probably got 80 cars on his site, and it looks horrible.
Good.
So, and we have a very, he said, inoperable. He said, well, they're not inoperable. So, he told me he was gonna clean it up. And, we sent certified letters and we've got some court dates set and things like that, or at least we get involved, we have to. But I just wish it was written just a little clearer, made it a little easier on us.
It would seem to me that's something we should probably continue on. I mean, 80 seems significant.
I mean, it's dozens. I don't know if it's 80, but it's a lot.
That's a whole slew of collectibles. All right, anybody else got anything for Ligon?
Just real quick,
Please.
on the, the automobiles, well, our definition of junkyard in our ordinance, I think we ought to, make sure we're covering junkyard, not just
Yeah, and I'll
junk
lean on
on
that
the-
as well, sure.
Because it says, and, talking about, junk, and it said the term junkyard shall include the term automobile graveyard. So it goes beyond that, because I know of a couple junkyards that I've been catching some heat on too, and that's refrigerators and, old buses and junk like that. So
Excellent.
don't limit it to cars.
I think that's done, Supervisor Yao, Vice Chairman Yao, excuse me, on maybe square footage. I think it references trash heap. So definitely there's room to go
Yeah,
redefine.
200 square feet, yeah.
We really have a term in our ordinance, trash heap. Is that really in there?
Let's see,
We should work on better terminology. Trash heap should not be in the ordinance.
scrap metals or other scrap materials. I don't see trash heap.
Tremendous.
Yeah.
Good.
It's a good one, though.
What else we got for Ligon? Anybody? All right, very good. Annette, welcome. Oh, well, you? Good. How's the animal shelter?
Doing wonderful. So the numbers for November, 4 dogs adopted, 10 from the shelter and 2 at PetSmart, 5 to a rescue Cow Incorporated, 1 dog for cats, and 5 dogs were claimed in their home. Deacon for Paul's held a poker run on October the 28th. Several dogs from the shelter enjoyed a day out at Fall Top and at Yoder's Market. Fall Top give the shelter a donation. Shannon was actually involved with that. The Who Club, which stands for Wetzel, helps others. They brought in a bunch of donations on November the 11th, food, treats, blankets. They were put on Facebook to recognize their efforts in helping. I've contacted several rescues, including Hart, to take some of their residents at the shelter. A couple have been there since July, so just working on getting them out. And we started December with 5 dogs, 8 cats, and 1 dog in long-term foster care.
All right. It's pretty good numbers. Anybody have any questions for Annette? Annette, thank you. Ms. Richards, how's dispatch?
Going well.
Good.
So far, so good. Calls for the month of November, we had 140 911 calls from home phones, 287 from wireless, 2,480 admin calls taken, 1,153 admin calls made. Total calls to the center is 4,060. And the percentage for the same time frame last year is 108. Percentage year-to-date from the same time last year is 99%. Calls for service for the month had 1,069. Year-to-date, 12,525. And the year-to-date compared to last year is at 106. For staffing, we have one in training. She's doing extremely well. And we're still down 2 positions.
Advertising?
Yeah, we have it advertised on the website, on Facebook,
Getting anybody?
a couple.
Yeah, all right. All right, any other questions for Ms. Richards? All right, passing on back to Ms. Barry.
I don't have anything.
All right.
Is there any questions that you have?
Anybody have any
We've been very
questions?
busy. We continue to be very busy.
Good. All right. Greg Cave.
All right, so I'd like to welcome Alex Benjamin. He's our new deputy animal control officer. His first official day was November the 27th, so he's in just over 2 weeks. Already had him enrolled with the academy to obtain his animal control certification, which will be in April. He's already starting to obtain his NIMS training, so I believe he's going to be just fine, doing great. As far as the animal control, animal shelter, we are getting a new updated camera system that was pushed back. Unfortunately, the guy that was doing the install had health problems, so we're looking at, I believe, the end of December for that. The Virginia Horse Council Foundation, they're conducting a survey. Their goal is to review where and what resources are needed in the Commonwealth to assist animal control with any equine seizures. And then I wanted to just share a report that I received from VDAX regarding the new respiratory illness in dogs that's going around. I think Mr. Jewett was referring to this last week. So, on the way here, I received a call that, speaking to Emily Bordon, that I was thinking that it was not reported in Virginia yet, that it's only in Maryland. After speaking to her, that there may be a couple cases in North Virginia. That hasn't been confirmed yet. The symptoms are similar to any other upper respiratory, like a common cold, coughing, sneezing, UBIs, clears up around 10 days or so. Most cases are not fatal. However, there's still a lot of unknown at this point that they do not know about. Doesn't appear that it can be transmitted to people at this time, but we're still unsure if it can be passed along to livestock. They're saying the biggest risk is where dogs are associated with other dogs, like if you go to a dog park. The best way to fight off the infection, of course, is to make sure the dog is current on all his vaccinations. That's all I have at this time. I hear more, learn more about it, I'll definitely let you know.
What's the name of this dog respiratory illness?
I don't think they gave it a name, they're just calling it a mysterious illness in canine surgery.
All right. Questions, Mr. Cave? And Mr. Fincham, welcome. Yes, sir. Gavin?
Good evening. Just real quick, the Virginia Emergency Shelter Upgrade Grant, we are still waiting for the engineer to get back to us with the final drawings. I'm sure it's fairly complex, and that's what some of the delays are. I know that we were in touch with them end of last week, and they said that they were getting closer to having that ready. 2023 SHSP grant, I think I mentioned it last month, we did not receive either of the grants that we put in for. I have received the feedback from VDEM. I'm still kind of going through it, not super happy with the lack of feedback. Didn't really agree with some of it that was there. But I have sent those reports back out to the public safety group, and we can discuss them this Thursday when we have our meeting. LEPC, we had to cancel the one that was during the wildfire, so I'll be rescheduling that. It'll probably be towards the end of January, first week of February. Try to get past the holidays and get caught up before we jump into that. And The wildfire wrap-up, we'll be discussing and doing some prep work for a full hot wash this week when we meet as a public safety group. I'm also meeting with Department of Forestry and Brian and Troy Coppage on Thursday morning before that meeting with Kenner. You guys know Mr. Kenner, they're from BDOF. He's the regional supervisor. And the last thing I have on my list is for tomorrow afternoon, we'll be virtually meeting with Verizon to discuss cellular on wheel options and see what they have to offer, what the costs are, what the capabilities are, what have you. And that was born out of the extreme utility that we saw from that type of device during the wildfire, and then being able to rapidly deploy it on our own without being having to stand in line necessarily. We got very lucky with this event. From when I placed the order, it was here 4 hours later. That's not always the case. It could be up to 48 hours or longer. So we're going to look and see what those options are. And that's all I have for you.
All right, question for Gavin?
Yeah, I've got one. Gavin, so I've read in a number of places, VDM underwent an audit, which did not go well for them, I don't think.
VDM or?
Wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it's VDM, wasn't it? Noah?
Virginia Office of EMS.
Oh, okay. All right, that's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, they're different
So,
agencies.
okay, so how is that gonna, it sounded like it's gonna throw any kind of grant requests
Depends
that
on
might
who
be
the
out there, push it all down the road quite a ways.
I would imagine at the state level for EMS-related grants, the RSAF grant and what have you, and I'll let Noah talk more about it, but that could have an impact on that. In terms of what we do in emergency management, that's not a grant that we utilize.
Okay. So-
VDEM is a separate agency with a separate budget that's managed properly, and I don't see any changes there. Plus, a lot of our grants that we put in are at the federal level, they're FEMA backed, and then administrated by VDEM. So I don't see a significant concern from the emergency management standpoint.
All right, yeah, Noah, I'd just like to hear what the effect on us.
All right, anybody else have anything to Gavin?
No, sir.
All right, now, no, address that. Go ahead.
Good evening. Yeah, so what we're starting to feel is there's limited info coming out. The state currently pays for our pediatric system. It's called HandTevi, which is a couple $1,000s. They're no longer supporting that. I have a conference call tomorrow with HandTevi to figure out what we're going to do. It'll likely be part of our FY25 budget request. Problem is they're ending service like at the end of the month. So between now and then, I have to look at the budget and see what we have to help cover. Very important system. These calls are low frequency, high acuity, and it's a systematic approach to managing patients you don't see often. And the team enjoys having that in their job. So.
All right, everybody understand that, because what are they cutting specifically?
I'm waiting for official guidance. What I can tell you officially is HandTevi. It's an emergency pediatric management system.
All right.
That they're no longer going to be supporting. My understanding is EMS Symposium may not be occurring anymore. That's where we used to send our staff for training. But that's not official. That's just what I'm hearing right now. But
All right.
What's the acronym for this department that we're,
Virginia Office of EMS.
Virginia Office of EMS?
And there may be scholarship effects, so the state has an education scholarship for providers that are interested in furthering their education, also initial education. That may not be supported, but again, we're waiting to hear exactly what the effects are. The pediatric system is the current one that I know for sure.
All right. What else do you have to report, Noah?
November was busy, 123 calls, continuing to help our mutual aid partners. Happy to report that we're still fully staffed. We have multiple staff members that are on orientation that will soon be hopefully done with that, but they're progressing well. Continuing to support our standby events with Woodbury High School. Really happy to report our agency inspection went off very well. That's a huge thanks to the team, making sure everything's in order. Attached to this report is a acknowledgement from the inspector for you to read. The update on the ambulance order, it's still 25 to 28 months away. I'm continuing to stay on them to see if we can get that bumped up a little bit. And then the last part is training. One of the things that we always track is the line of duty death training that Virginia requires. Due to the number of new hires, we just had everybody go through that, so we're compliant with that. And the final thing, I want to say thank you to Greg and Alex. Friday, there was another car crash at Shelby in 29. Young fella heading to Florida to visit his mother for Christmas. Car was totaled, dog ran away, dog was found, dog was injured, and we were able to safely transport both owner and dog to the animal hospital, and we welcomed them. So this was just another example of coming together. It's not just managing the incident, but it's he had nowhere to go after the incident. He no longer had a car, and we found his dog. So really good. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I have. Any other questions?
Your director of emergency, or not director of emergency, but what was that gentleman's title that we just switched? About a month and a half ago.
OMD.
OMD, thank
Operations
you.
Medical Director.
How's the relationship
Yeah, so
going?
Dr. Raines, very well.
Good.
He actually came last Monday. What he's promised
you.
us is the fourth Monday of every month, he's gonna be at the station in person. He got to see our team doing training, and then happened, we had 2 calls during that, which he actually went on the calls with the team.
Good.
And I have nothing but good things to report.
Great. That's what we want to hear. Anybody have anything else for Noah? All right.
Thank you,
Pat,
Supervisor Hoffman, by the way, enjoy working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
pass it over, yeah, Miss Warren. Miss Warren, well, how's financial?
Good afternoon. Couple items to report. The FY '24, the budget, the audit is almost complete. We'll have it finalized by the deadline. And David Foley from the audit firm will be coming to present on January 9th to the board. The compensation study, we are on target to present a draft to the board on January 9th. And we are going to have some dialogue for the rest of January with department heads on the report, and then come to the board with a final draft on February 8th. So that study's going well. We do have data from 8 surrounding counties, or 8 counties, and we have Culpeper, Greene, Albemarle, Orange, Page, Rappahannock, Rockingham, and Warren. So we've got data from a lot of counties. So the report is very in-depth. We feel good about where we're at. And we had a 3-hour meeting yesterday, the team, Tilly and Jonathan and I, so we're digging deep. And we're putting together a good report. The other things, just we're putting together a fuel card and Bank of America policies and procedures document, drafting that for the board to review and approve coming up. And as far as the Tyler HR payroll implementation and time and attendance is still ongoing. Tilly and I feel really good about the HR payroll piece. We will run parallel payrolls in RDA and Tyler in the month of January, just to be safe. And then as far as time and attendance and online timesheets, the goal is to finalize everything in January for rollout, hopefully February 1. The good news is that we do have RDA for the first quarter of next year, so next calendar year, so that we have some more time. And for these hiccups and building and permit side is also rolling theirs out. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, all right, Tyler. We know everybody has thoroughly enjoyed Tyler training. When are we going to be done Tyler training? I mean, it's not criticism in any way, but just as information, are we going to finish this soon-ish or what?
So the plan is to be completely done in first quarter of calendar year
2024. So January through March, I believe, and Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, that buildings and permits should be finalizing theirs as well that first quarter.
That is correct. We would love for it to be in January. There are things that they're still working on, such as some importing of files and so forth. So that RDA is kind of our backstop because we feel that it may not be January 1. At least I'm speaking for Tyler Phase 3, which Jennifer is assisting on as well. But we'll meet first quarter either Phase 2 or Phase 3. Phase 2 may come a little bit earlier depending on when. It's a central property model that is giving them a fit on Tyler's end. And that's what's delaying our rollout of that product. But we believe first quarter, we feel strong in that. So there's configuration. Training can be a little misleading. They use training a lot. You're training on the system, but you initially are configuring it. So you set up fees, structures, different things like that. But there will be an end user training at the end of this. So once they're done with all that, we'll get with other folks who wasn't part of the configuring mode to know how to use the system.
Okay.
And another portal that we are implementing is a Tyler ESS, which is basically employee self-service. The employees will be able to log in and get their W-2s, their pay stubs, all of that, their balance on their PTO. So this self-service is another part of the implementation. So we have Tyler ESS, Tyler Time and Attendance, and Tyler HR and Payroll. So Tilly and I are very busy doing 3, but we feel good about it at this point. It's just taking a lot to get it all set up.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Warren? All right, would you pass it back to Alan? How is IT, Alan?
Always fun, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Doing a lot of break fix here and some installations. If you've been out and about, you've probably seen me zooming around in my Mini Cooper all day. We're offering continuing support to building, finance, and the treasurer's office with Tyler ERP. A few hiccups here and there with the server. I think everything is functioning where it's supposed to be at the moment. The customer self-service portal, I believe that's up and running for the most part. We still have some bugs to work out of that. Still working with finance and RDA to determine the best options for the RDA legacy data going forward. MFA, we are continuing to run at that as fast as we physically can. I believe we had 28 people sign up today. So we should be done with everyone in the next week or so. That is the plan, get everyone done by Friday of next week. Intune, we have spoken with Magnify, who has replaced A&S. They're essentially the same thing. A company just bought out A&S. Intune has been configured for our environment. As soon as we finish with MFA, we will be rolling that out. It's essentially just mobile device management for the county. It'll be an upgrade to our security features that we have access to. So if somebody loses their phone, they have vital information on it. We can push a button, break that phone. Nobody can get access to that phone. Other things like that.
Yeah.
The social services data infrastructure upgrade is complete. Our switch is still connected into the state switch, but we will be able to perform maintenance on our stuff. Any problems with the phone lines, we can now troubleshoot ourselves. We don't have to go to the state for any kind of help on there for that particular issue. Internet, I believe, still comes from the state, so that will be a state issue. Phones is us. And the other thing is our trouble ticket breakdown. Bruce and I are still filling in most of the tickets ourselves. Whenever we get a call in, we just encourage people to use the ticketing system. It does help us keep track of things, and there are a lot of things to keep track of. Questions for the IT part?
All right, does anybody have any questions or criticisms for Alan? Yeah, it sounds like you're doing good, Alan. Thank you. All right, Tracy.
He set up my authentication while I'm sitting here today, so that was very painless. Thank you, Alan. Our tree lighting and parade went very well. The most entries we've had in the parade. I'm going to submit our tree lighting as the smallest tree lighting in America and see what that does for us. Rain held out for that, and also the live nativity at Beth Carr. And a huge thanks to Mooney, Heather, and Kurt for the decorating. And props to Mooney for giving Heather, making sure we told Heather thank you for doing the extra on the wreaths and stuff. They look really, really good.
We've received all positive comments regarding the snowflakes, and again, important to note that no taxpayer dollars were spent on those snowflakes, it was all transient occupancy taxes. So there's that.
Good.
And some help from Plow and Hearth, and some donations for the park, and Cheryl Yao she had the contact to get those snowflakes and the discount. So there was that. Mary Madison went very well, in case you aren't familiar. About 25 businesses participated. You had to go to those businesses, mention Mary Madison, and that ad in just 1 week reached 62,000 people. And I'm happy to report that we did 3 prizes, and none of them were local people. So these were people coming from Northern Virginia or Richmond. That was good news to hear. Our grant for cluster growth was approved by Region 9 and now going to the state level. Let's see. We sent out the comp plan too via Facebook and Constant Contact, so I do also want to give props to Connie for that. Business news, Peppers is coming to Madison where Mad Local was. All I know officially is supposedly they're going to hopefully be open by February. And there may be more of that, Ms. Huffman might know more, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that one. The Helpful Herb opened in the old Smith Dentist office along with Unbound Body Therapies and where Rappahannock Real Estate is. The Green Giraffe, which was on my report from last month, is to the right where Rockingham Insurance was, where Emily Lou's was at the south end of town. And Service Master is now in her old location. And the only official thing I can say about that building is it probably will not be unoccupied for long. Attended the town grant management meeting last Tuesday along with Mr. Dawson. There's a Zoom with the state on that tomorrow. They got a $20,000 grant for planning for the town. Central Virginia Partnership meeting is Friday. David Baltop will be representing us in the food and manufacturing sector. There's a SEDS meeting next week, which is the economic development strategy for the region with Patrick Monty. And I saw that everybody gets it, and I don't think I've gotten it before, but I got a report from the Virginia Career Works that I saw all you guys got as well. I was impressed because I had not seen it before. Since July, they had 28 Madison County residents visit them at their one-stop shop. 2 residents have gained employment through their programs, and that's Sarah Morton. You needed a reminder who that was. 3 enrolled in Workforce Innovation and Opportunity. 23 met with their staff in county through Project Future, which I was also not aware of, and 10 Madison nonprofits connected through Project Future. They've also partnered with Cardinal to be the primary option in continuing education, and they're working with the library. I did not know any of those things. There was also an REI meeting, and I don't remember what that stands for, but with CIC, who did our grants for the Madison Cares grants. They have received $300,000 for an initiative involving the Community Investment Collaborative and Venture Central. It's an entrepreneur program, and so we've given them names of several entrepreneurs in Madison as well. They will develop a regional strategy to strengthen and grow the entrepreneurial system in the region by engaging a broad range of stakeholders, creating an inventory of available resources and small business funding sources, and developing actionable strategies to increase the rate of new business formation and improve survival rates for early-stage businesses in urban and rural areas. That's important because I saw that was one of the questions on the comp plan that somebody had. Do we check back with businesses to see how long they've lasted? I think that's all I've got other than preparing for next year. And I too want to thank Ms. Huffman for your service and your time and your love of Madison and businesses, both proposed and current. And also goes to show that you don't have to agree 100% of the time to respect and appreciate somebody 100% of the time. So thank you.
All right, questions for Tracy?
I've got one, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Okay, Tracy, grant for cluster growth was approved by Region 9 Council and now will go to the state level. And I put a little note in like, what does this mean for Madison?
So that's the one where we've been working with Nelson on all the grants for the craft brewing industry. This is one, they're going to look at the gaps that you've asked about before, and I've reported on before. There's like this long list. They're looking at gaps in the wineries and breweries to see where they can expand. And I should mention that too. Revelation's new winery tasting room opened up too, which is gorgeous. So they're looking at gaps, and that's again just a planning grant, $100,000.
Okay.
So, and how it affects us is it kind of just furthers what we've done so far, crafting a new normal, and that's one of the ones that Chris and Hal, they benefited from that program. They graduated from Piedmont for that. So we've gotten 5,
additional breweries and wineries since we started doing these grants. We've done almost $1 million in grants so far, partnering with Nelson for the region. We have to do the region. Maureen and Nelson just wanted to do Madison and Nelson, quite honestly, but it's a regional venture.
Revelation's new tasting room where what was that, the APHIS money?
Yes, and we are still, we've got emails and texts going back and forth. Both of those performance agreements still have not been completed or signed. So in both instances, there's been a lag. So Revelation's her numbers, and she's out of the country right now too. But construction costs, like all this happened right at COVID. So all the construction costs, all the numbers have changed. So we're trying to get it finalized so that they can still get their money, but we'll still have to do our part as well.
Okay. And our part's just the deferment of taxes for,
We try, to make
Yeah.
up and basically any of the permitting and that kind of thing. They're different for each one.
all right. Okay. Further questions for Tracy? Thank you, Tracy. All right. Did we miss anybody else? Did anybody jump online that we're
Brian on the
missing?
way.
Brian Daniels still is not here. He's coming. We got some questions for him too. All right, consent agenda. We've got minutes from 10/24/2023. What would everybody like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, we do have a special presentation. Mr. Dillon from Brightspeed, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Supervisors, for having me. I guess I'm gonna have to keep the staff up here. Again, thank you so much. Your staff is amazing, your administrative staff is amazing, your administrator is amazing. Very welcoming to me. Thank you for the invitation. I just wanted to go quickly, give you an update about who Brightspeed is, where we stand with the build here, and what our plans in the future are. So a little bit about myself. I actually spent 10 years at the legislature in North Carolina. I spent 4 and some years at the Wildlife Resource Commission, where the enforcement actually gave me a gun because they said the most unsafe place for a person in the state is the state capitol, which is where I worked out of. I spent 11 years in local government. I was assistant county manager in 2 counties, one over 1 million people and one a little bit smaller. And I am currently starting my 4th month with Brightspeed. So you may know more than me on some of these things. Just a little bit about who Brightspeed is. We are a startup company. We are 1 year old. We took over the assets, the copper line assets, the ILEC, the incumbent telephone assets in 20 states from Lumen and CenturyLink. So we are not a merged company. We are not a transition to a new company. We purchased those assets. And in the last year, we have spent significant resources in upgrading the copper assets, preparing to build fiber, building fiber, and just in our, and you may speak to some of your supervisors who in other counties, we've gotten our call centers down to 1 minute where a live person answers the phone versus hours before. And we've hired an additional 41 techs in Virginia. We currently operate in about 30 counties, but mainly 20 county footprint. So this is a very busy slide. It's something you can share. It just goes over, we are, again, a startup company, 20 states. Our company is owned by an investment company out of New York, but we're headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina. We currently have over 4,000 employees, and we are planning as a company to put $2 billion of our own money into fiber service in our footprint. And that's not including the $130 million that we've received in grants over the past year that we're going to continue to go after body, feed, or other grants as they come available. So this is an overall of what Brightspeed's doing in Virginia. Hopefully, by the end of this year, we'll have 60,000 new fiber passings. That is fiber going by residents where they are available to call in and hook up with fiber service to the premises. We hope by the end of the next couple of years, we'll have that number up to 130,000 within Virginia, and that is just private equity. That is not, that is not any federal or state grants. That is private equity that's going to build those. Any additional grants that we get will build on top of that 130 that we plan to build right now. I wanted to mention this before we go into the build. We're really aggressive about our pricing plan. So if you look at 200 megs, that's what most people have if you have cable service to your home. That's what I run at home. I mean, that really will do most of your residential, and I operate out of my house for work. The 500 up and down, that means you can upload 500, download 500, that's 69. The 1 gig up, 1 gig down, I mean, that's a very aggressive price for $79, and that is, I'm unaware of anybody who's, unless they're operating significant hardware at their home, that need more than that currently. I did want to mention the ACP low income offer. When I was assistant county manager, we got all this ARPA money and people wanted to build all these fiber and broadband. A lot of the commissioners or supervisors would come to me and say, none of my people can afford this. If you're talking $159 a month for fiber, my people can't afford it. What Brightspeed is doing right now is, if for our lowest price, which is a broadband, 200 up, 200 down, exactly what I run at my house, that's $60, $59. The Affordable Connectivity Program with the federal government, if you're a qualifying household, if you have Medicaid, food stamps, other services through the state or federal government, they give you $30 for your household. We match that 30 out of our private equity. So that is free internet to homes that qualify. So we are really trying to bridge that digital equity divide and allow everybody to have the same connectivity. We're based in rural America, and we don't think anybody should, whether it's your income or where you live, that you should not have a service that people have in other areas or other incomes. Really quick, this is our Virginia service territory right now. This is our footprint. This is the ILEC, that telephone copper line that we purchased. I go to some of your neighboring counties or counties down in the southwest, and they say, why in the world would you ever purchase that? It was a terrible company, and they did a terrible job, and all these accolades about the great decision that we made. But we have restored that copper service as we use that copper service to overlash fiber. And that's going to be where we kick our footprint out and go to expand into other areas of the state. So with that, I'll let you know what you really want to know is where are we with the build here, our RDOT build. So this, and you like I said, I'm starting my fourth month, but Madison County is part of a larger build, and it's originating out of the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission. So that is 3 counties in this bigger build that includes Greene, Madison, and Campbell. There's actually another county, Hanover, I'm presenting to tomorrow, that it's out of all this grant, there's 4 counties involved in a larger grant. Madison County, as you're aware, is outside of our current service territory. But we are excited to be building in Madison County and offering these fiber services I just went over. So our total RDOF for these 3 counties is about 1,037 passings. That's residents, businesses, sheds. The federal guideline is very clear on what counts as a passing. Your portion within Madison County is about 677 of those, we think, and that's 64% of the entire build. So it's a majority of the build. So this is a very rudimentary polygon of what the census blocks. Now, as we go into the next rounds of funding, and I'm sure your staff has let you know about BEAD and the $1.4 billion that the federal government's going to give Virginia, census blocks aren't going to be the necessary tool that's going to be used, which is good because census blocks are very hard to build in sometimes. But that's just a rudimentary polygon with the locations that we are aware of, that when we applied, we got awarded the grant. And I'll show you on the next slide, you know, our wire center, if you go down a little bit more, we don't have one in Madison County. So the red is out of territory of where we're building. The blue square there is coming out of Greene County. That's our fiber connected point where we'll build out into Madison from that point. And the next slide is just a little bit more of, you know, where we're building for this grant. We have a planned build, one of our funded builds coming out of Ruckersville into Greene County. So we'll be building all that out of that fiber center, and it'll provide amazing coverage to the county in our area. So the current status, our agreement says with the DHCD that we have to be done. I mean, you don't understand, our management and CEOs, that we will be done. There'll be no delay, there'll be no request for additional time, no extension. I don't even know if they would grant one. But that's about 368 days away. Our high-level design, fully complete. We are complete right now with our high-level design. Our contractor is walking out. So that's physically walking down the road, walking through neighborhoods, walking along the right-of-way, in trucks, on the ground, seeing where are we gonna, you know, what are we passing, what are we gonna locate. That is a critical next step, and that has begun. I think it actually started on November 27th. Our next step right now will be, after that's complete, the submission of the required permits for VDOT and others of right-of-way and allowing the work in there. And again, this must and will be completed by December 15th of 2024. So, just final points here. We are a new company. We are a one-year-old startup. We are very aggressive in our footprint of where we're going to be building fiber to the residences. We're deploying high-speed internet at rates that other companies strive to get to, and we're still far behind on what we think we can do. I mentioned we're focused on providing equitable service to rural populations. We've got the free high-speed internet to qualifying households, and we want to be a community partner invested in the economic prosperity of our service areas. And we understand the importance of two-way communication. I've got a communication line direct with your staff now. They have my contact. If any resident, if any business, if any chamber, anybody wants to talk about our build, we're more than welcome to do it. I know people want things done yesterday, but I can tell you from the CEO down to me, which is a very long way, it has been escalated. This build, the entire three-county region plus Hanover, has been escalated to the top to be expedited as quick as possible. And I sit in very long meetings once a week on this build, on where we are, and we're going resident by resident by resident, making sure that we get everybody. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. I welcome any questions. I thank you again for the invitation, and we're excited to be in Madison County.
All right, who has questions for Mr. Dillon?
I don't have any for him, but I will have one for Mr. Wiggler.
All right, there you go.
I've got one
ahead.
from Mr. Dillon. So you said we got the contractors out there walking the roads right now. Which of these slides show me where he or she is walking?
So that slide right there, if you see
That one?
dark red shade,
Yep.
that is our build. That is what we have agreed with DHCD, that will provide service to all the properties or all present residences within there. So they are walking the roads within there, side roads, main roads, in trucks, looking at where they'll put certain devices along the pathway, where to hang, where to bury. That's what is going on right now. And we can provide detailed maps as that walkout continues, but it honestly takes resources away from the people who are trying to expedite it to stop and do a report, for a very detailed report, when we're trying to push the engineers to get it done as fast as possible. So it's, where do you want your resources applied? But we want communication across the board. whatever y'all need. We provide monthly reports. I think a new one's coming out tomorrow. We'll be sure that whoever wants that gets it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the last monthly report we have is November, let's see, dated 11/14, right? So that is,
That's the one that's citing 15%
yeah,
completion of
that's not a
design.
pretty report,
Right.
correct?
Yes.
So,
I can tell you that comments from this board have escalated this project.
Yeah.
It's been a company that is in 20 states.
well, that's you fussing about
How-
this.
Yeah,
I'll
it should be.
I'll reserve my questions until it's my time.
Okay, no, that's the only two I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, with, y'all are really gonna be able to complete this by the end of next year, the year that is coming up in like less than 15, 16 days.
So I was
20
thinking
days.
when I was listening to your staff reports, so, you know, every county in the nation have the exact same problems. Animal shelter, EMS, I can't believe you're fully staffed, that's awesome. I mean, I had EMS under me and we were staffed at 50% sometimes. Everything is about scale. So our ability as a larger company is to scale up very quickly. So I wouldn't say other engineers or people they don't put in front of y'all to talk, would say, well, this is a small bill compared to, no, this is not a small bill to anybody who's there. But our ability is we can scale that up, and we have contractors on contract that we say, go get this done. We don't have to hire, we don't have to, our ability is to scale up a project very quickly. So
Okay.
it's not a matter of will we get it done, it's we have to get it done. And from every engineer that I've spoken to, they don't feel like it would take that long. So, yes, we'll have it done.
And same parameters as, like Firefly's doing when it pertains to, what is it, 1,500 feet from the last pole or whatever to the household?
Not necessarily.
Maybe less, maybe more?
Well, some of that's proprietary on what we offer a customer. Yeah, we may not charge for drops. We may say, we'll take it as far as you want it. We
Yeah.
won't charge extra.
All right.
So that's, some of that is customer information. There is the same requirement under the grant,
Yep.
but if somebody says, I want service, we might not charge them for the rest of the way.
All right,
So that's,
okay. All right, other questions, please.
Yeah, Mr. Dillon, in looking at your map now, please clarify again, you have the whole county shaded with at least the light red color. So the intention is long-term and your strategy would be to cover the entire county?
no, sir, I'm sorry if that's the way what the engineers who put these polygons together, they are showing that Madison County's out of our service footprint currently. And the dark red, so that's your county border. The dark red is where our current RDOT field is. So that is a little misleading. Thank you for pointing that out.
All right. You have a question from Mr. Weekly?
Mr. Weegley, how is, in the grand scheme of things, how does this complement or compete with the Firefly rollout?
Thank you, Mr. Jewett, for that question. I definitely want to ensure that we get a map, Mr. Dillon, that's Madison. So, if that darker shade is it, because I need to answer this question. When you get into, and you've just heard about the VATI FY24 that is being applied for with another service provider. That area that moves along Route 231, that push down Hoover Road, Route 609, so that's where you see the intersection of Banco. It's kind of, if you think of a bird wing, you're moving to the right there. That looks like something new. We were tracking, if you have 600 and some passings of your 1,037, that seems like a larger footprint. And that's fine if unserved or underserved people will be done. I just wasn't tracking that footprint for the RDOF. I thought it was more of that Graves Mill, Kinder Hook, Wolftown Hood area of the county. So I just want to make sure whatever maps that represent that 600 and some passings, we have that. I like to have a complimentary broadband overview for the board as well as the general public, our media, who we work closely with, that shows that this is that area. Because we also have funding tied to this area. So the ARPA monies that we designated is roughly 2.5 million. I believe 400 and some $1,000 is geared towards this part of the build. So it does seem to have some overlap, but I like to have a specific map, Mr. Jewett, of those 600 and some customers.
I can, if I can follow up on that, I can say that, before the walkout, we have identified a significant majority of the addresses that I can share with you. But as the walkout continues, it'll, again, a shed qualifies under this grant. So if somebody has a barn or a shed, we have to make sure that counts as a passing. So I can share with the preliminary addresses specific, but also provide you with a more engineered detailed map.
I definitely will, because also with go up a couple more slides previously, it's got the yellow and the, yes. So that too need to narrow that down more, because I don't know if that's all representing, that may be your census block, but I don't think that's all inclusive of just this build. That was. So I'm just looking for more general maps. So as this shows, Mr. Jewett, members of the board, just to clearly answer your question, it looks like there could be some overlap there. But I think if we get in and drill down to those specific addresses and have that map of that area, you should see some shrinkage in that map.
Okay, thank you. I guess I'm going to tag on with Supervisor Yao. I mean, we're really concerned too is about the northeastern part of the county, the Etlin area, and what's going to be done with that, and how we're going to aggressively pursue to get a partner in to cover that part of the county.
So that part of the county, that was part of the process. You all authorized a letter of support for the other ISP. I usually say other ISP because I'm respectful who's here and not talking competitors. So that is part of your VATI 2024 grant with that provider. And actually, what they showed in their slideshow was it's going to go beyond that. The FCC, which is whether it's Brightspeed or any other providers, they're updating constantly coverage, which will show underserved or unserved. So whether it's 100, I think it's 100 up, 20 down, are the metrics now for download speeds, upload speeds. So they're looking at that, or if service is not provided at all. So the last meeting you had when you authorized the letter of support, it covered all that northern area, as well as they were able to pick up some pockets along 29, which has historically been strictly Comcast, no matter any other provider. They've reached down further in Rochelle. There's overbuild that will occur in this area. The way that this MOU is written or agreed upon between Brightspeed and Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission and DHCD, primarily DHCD, they are the end-all, say-all, is that if, and we're not saying it's not, so please don't take it that way, Mr. Dillon, if this project is not successful, it would roll back into that original project in that build. So the monies is still there. The monies right now that's set aside are for the Aldorf awarded area to Brightspeed. So northern part is covered if we're awarded the grant. We were denied last year for the same area. Part of that that's frustrating, I don't mean to go on and on, that area was part of the original build. So when they gave that Aldorf challenge to Chantel that backed out, it's easier to put forth a bigger project, lower your cost per passing. That's how they generally score these things at the state level. Now you've got a project smaller, of course it's going to have a higher cost per passing. So we hope we're successful in this realm. BEAD is other funding availability. Supervisor Yao and I have spoken to Verizon's, the company's reached out. We have not committed, nor will we. That's your job. That's just someone who's reached out to us. We have another community action partner who may be interested in that. Those are some opportunities to really, if fiber's not covered to home, let's say you've got a mile-long driveway and normally a service drop would be 2,500 feet, and that's where that ISP stops, there are programs such as BEAD that could pick that up. Or BEAD funding can be used to for education purposes and how to prevent scam for that end user. So BEAD has a lot of other qualifiers for it. It's a lot more strings because it is federal money that's being passed down to the state. But again, that northern area that you just referred to, if awarded, the FY '24 VATI grant will be covered.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wickley. Thank you, Mr. Dillon.
Thank you.
The only other one, Mr. Dillon, is what infrastructure are you surveying at this point? I mean, are you all looking at new infrastructure being built, or are you looking at working off of basically REC poles?
Well, I will say in my short time, we, as from up to down, we're not looking to ever build a pole again. I mean, that's just not, when we do a build in our existing footprint, we're gonna use whatever infrastructure's there, get agreements if we don't already have them. Most of our areas, we have pole attachment agreements where we own some poles, they own some poles. That's the way it works. Here, that might, it might be more underground, or it might be getting those pole attachment agreements. But we're not looking to install poles anymore. That's.
I mean, since y'all aren't serving Virginia currently, I mean, how long of a process is it to get pole agreements and our provider is REC? How long will it take to get those agreements in place?
It really depends on the communication back and forth.
Sure.
So I will say, the city of Martinsville, they are their electric company. I called the city of Martinsville, the guy said, I think I got one laying around here, here it is, go sign it, we're good. So it can be a day, or it can be a little bit longer, but they're usually template across the industry. We've only, it's been doing this for 100 years with phone lines and electric, so usually it doesn't take very long.
Okay. You have other questions?
Once the supervisors are.
Not,
finished.
anybody else got anything? Go ahead, please.
To further that, Mr. Dillon, do you all currently have any pole lease or pole attachment lease agreements in place?
Let me get an answer to that.
All right,
I wouldn't think so, but let me make sure.
it took me a year for one pole for Verizon. It took us 3 months for 41 poles with the electric provider here. And that was running, how many linear feet from here to Hoover Ridge? 1,600 linear feet, 3 months to get those agreements.
And I was honest, we don't do, we try to do everything parallel. So while our guys are walking, we have legal working out pole attachment, joint use agreements, franchise agreements, so we don't wait for the next step, we try to run everything parallel. But thank you for that.
Yes, sir. And it's Brightspeed's project. If Madison can be of help, we work regular with, their public information people, your project, but however we can help, because it's our customers or our citizens. But I just wanted to let you know that was 41 poles, 3 months. So whatever we can do to provide contacts or anyone, but that process can take a little bit sometimes.
And I did want to mention, Mr. Chair, if I may, just to let you know, when we go out and our trucks are up, or our drills or whatever technology, we do put door hangers along and let people know this is Brightspeed, these are the services that you'll be offered. We use A-frames, so when I was coming out of town today, there was another, at the last meeting I was at, there was another provider that was 200 holes dug along people's driveways, and they had A-frames. This is the company doing it. So we do try to do that to limit the number of calls that you receive and your staff receives, and focus that on us to provide answers.
And just any of that information that you have, Mr. Dillon, in advance, like if you're working in a certain area or if you target a certain area, just please let us know. We've had, a lot of times folks will call here first before they will even call REC, or they'll call Brightspeed or any other provider. It just helps us, we can divert them to you, but if there's like a mailing that you're looking to put out, I know REC recently done that a little bit, and there was some kind of confusion, all right, is it this other provider, or who's providing my service? It just helps us to have the same information. We would probably prefer, because you get a lot of the phone calls, to send them to the point of contact, but it's just part of that knowing where you're at, and because we get that question, we realize REC may be updating polls. It may have nothing to do with any broadband project, but just knowing what area you're targeted just helps us. And you've been very responsive with, I know Kim's probably got a list she's gonna send you tomorrow. We have citizens that reach out. I live at 123 Elm Street. We'll just use generic. Am I covered by your project enough? So we will have those specifics. We're gonna look to defer to you to get that answer. But thank you for being responsive to those specific questions.
Thank you.
Brian, you have anything?
No, I'm looking at the map there, and a lot of that's in Lakey, a lot of it's in very mountainous terrain, the roads in, and those roads are not necessarily houses. That's what I'm looking at.
Mr. Dillon, thank you. I'm sure we'll hear
Thank y'all
from you
very
again. All right, if y'all don't mind, let's back up. Mr. Daniels, welcome. You have anything to report?
We're getting ready to prepare for the general reassessment, as well as in the year the construction assessment. So we'll see some assessors going around the next couple of weeks, and then probably for the next quite a few months, we'll be out of that.
All right.
I believe you normally coordinate those efforts with dispatch and all, so if you get those calls, folks will be aware they're out and about. And I did text Mr. Daniel. I think there may have been
Yeah,
a
there
question
is.
at some point for him.
Received a phone call today, from a lady, asking about, tax deferment and rebates, I guess, for low income, and then people on Social Security above the age of 65. You have any comments about that? You want to add on
No,
to
go
it?
ahead. No,
Do you have
that's
any
it.
comments on it? I mean, she was asking specifically about her father, and the tax bill, and I'm glad to see the system is working where y'all are just handing out our phone numbers. Thank you. Just kind of curious about, I mean, what is, and other counties do this. Where is our position at this point?
Right, anyway, did I turn it off?
Mr. Barry, is
Oh,
he
yeah.
good?
Anyway, yeah, I mean, we've had the current deferral in place for, I don't know when it started, but quite a few years, many years. We've had elderly deferral program where we defer the tax payment based on qualifications, income-based. I know we've had a discussion, I don't know, it's been quite a few months ago with some of the realtor groups where we had talked about it and looked into it. You know, I'm happy to, if you want me to bring that back to the table, happy to get together some more information. We send those applications out, what do they do, April 1st. We make every attempt to get somebody re-enrolled. They are an annual application. If they've been enrolled before, we make many attempts from my office to get anybody that's previously been enrolled to stay in the program. Obviously, word of mouth, other avenues are good ways of letting people know that program is available. Again, we can make amendments, or the board can make amendments to the program if they so wish. And I'm happy to get together some more
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
But, I know we had kind of talked about it.
Yeah, we
Kind
did.
of fell off the plate there. But,
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I got the phone call today too. So to call her back, I would say, I guess she would want to know what the qualifications are. Is it percent income as a percent of poverty level, median income, plus age, plus
Right,
what
currently,
are?
the threshold is $30,000 of household income.
Uh-huh.
And 75,000 assets excluding the house and 3 acres of land.
30K and 75K excluding house and land.
3 acres of land. And that's just a fixed dollar amount that was
Yeah.
established back when the program was.
Yeah, I remember I was talking about that a few months ago.
Yeah.
Talking about whether it's, because in this case, it's just a deferral, it's not a, what's?
Exemption.
Exemption,
The
is
code
right.
allows for an exemption or a deferral.
I'm sorry,
The code allows for either or.
but we do the
Madison
deferral.
County elected the deferral.
And so if you defer, so this 65-year-old gets deferred for 15, 20 years, and then they pass away, how far back do we go? We go back 5?
It's a 5-year rollback.
5-year rollback. 5-year roll.
No penalty or interest or anything involved. It's straight rollback for tax.
Okay.
And I am being told it is on the website.
Mr. Chairman,
please.
Ms. Turner is getting ready to bring up section 24 for you, for your discussions.
24.
Can you get rid of the table to enhance the size of section 24-4?
There's an application on my website. I mean, it's out there. You know.
I've just forwarded you, this lady's name, and her phone number. Is there any way you'd reach out to her? And
Absolutely.
there you go. Thank you. All right, my eyes are good, but I can't read that.
That just gave you the prerequisites,
Good.
but if it's something you wish Brian
Why
or
don't you-
myself to work on, please let us know.
Everybody think about her. Reach out. Why don't you reach out to her and see what she has to say, and then maybe bring it back to us. Bring it back or pass it on to Mr. Weekly, and we can see what direction the board wants to move forward.
Are you looking to make amendments to the program, or are you looking for me to just establish communication?
I would say establish communications at this point, and then we'll start to analyze and try to figure out the correct path to go down.
And one more thing, Brian.
Go.
So this is just for real estate. It has nothing to do with personal property.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I thought so.
So we don't have a program for personal property.
Right, okay.
All right. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right, back to this. Old business. Mr. Wright, tell us about how we did on case number SU 12-23-19.
So this was for the Hart Kennel application, special use permit in A1. There were two motions that were heard on this thing. First one was to approve. It did not pass with a 2-2 vote. I think the next vote was a motion to deny, which also did not pass with a 2-2 vote. The end result of all this is that the special use permit application did not pass. And that's consistent with Code of Virginia, as well as our own bylaws for the county board. So I appreciate the board giving me the time to make sure we got this right. And I think that was only fair to the applicant and all the neighbors, everyone that came out. So that's the status of this, is that it, as we suspected, that the application didn't pass.
Very good.
So the applicant at this point is waiting for a final ruling from you tonight, Ligon, or do they already?
I mean, not really.
I mean-
guess if they really want to push it, they could ask, is it stable, since it wasn't passed.
Well, could you call them and tell them?
But they just said they'll resubmit the application, again, I just found out a couple months ago, about the whole provision that I always kind of told people, nah, I did wait a year. But I found out a few months ago that that's not the case. So they will resubmit, they will wait a little bit and change conditions.
To only add to Mr. Webb, the state gives that provision if the county adopts that via ordinance. So right now, we don't have an ordinance that says, wait a year, reapply. So technically, the applicant could reapply if they choose to do so.
No, I mean, all I was getting at was,
We need
is
to
the
tell them
applicant
what
waiting for a definitive answer to
All right.
the other night's
All right, so now,
transaction?
I agree. We're all on that. I think we do need to send an email to the lady confirming what Hannon has just said, that the previous application is denied.
Right.
Based on lack of majority on the board.
Yeah, I'll send an official correspondence.
Thank you.
And I
Yes,
didn't
sir.
talk to
No.
them, so they're okay, they just want to
The other side, and it's not a problem at this point, and I don't want to start working on it, I really, really don't. It does seem to me that there should be some type of provision in place where an applicant can't just reapply with the same application multiple times trying to get their case passed. The year thing, year seems arbitrary, but at least it's a time period. I do think if this does start to become an issue, that's something, a path we probably should be going down. Because, I mean, essentially, once the board takes a vote on it and it is the same application, it shouldn't come back up to us over and over again. And it's not a problem, so I don't think we need to go down that path at this point, but it is worth it. That's just where I'm at on it. Anybody else have any questions on this one for Hannon or Mr. Webb?
I just want to be
Please.
clear, so the way I would treat this, but I'm looking for your direction, so this was one of the two, actually both cases that was heard the other night came through the Development Committee. So I would treat this, if they do apply again, as a new application that would have to go back through that process unless you're telling me anything different. Because there may be conditions change, or I know the number of animals was something of concern, you know, deadening sound or whatever the proper term is. So if it comes back through, that's what I'm looking to have a conversation with Mr. Webb about, is it would go through that process unless you prefer.
Yes, I would think it would absolutely have to go through that process, especially in light of the denial that's come through.
Okay.
It may not be as drawn out of a process, but they definitely have to start there again.
Okay.
And on this side, I think we need to emphasize to the applicant that talking to the neighbors is probably the right thing to do, and
Yeah.
you need to go out there and do those things and try to figure it out. Anybody else have anything on this?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Gordon, tell us about the Churchill Tower site. Thank y'all for coming.
Okay, so the Churchill Tower site is actually moving along pretty well. Drawings came back in, everything looks good. I've got a few questions on telco and where power's gonna go, but long story short, building permits have been issued. We did not have the pre-construction meeting on Monday. We are having it tomorrow morning at 9:30. I anticipate construction to start shortly thereafter. Don't know if it'll be tomorrow or not. I'm hoping it'll be tomorrow. I've contacted the landowner this afternoon. I just started this meeting this afternoon, actually. So I've contacted him in hopes that he'll be there, at least to make him aware that we're gonna be there. So I did leave him a voicemail this afternoon, and I'll try him again once I get clear of this meeting. A few other things that we're doing up there. Well, first of all, Stephen Coates with the REC is gonna be there with us to determine right away and how we're gonna bring power into that. Verizon is still working through their processes internally. That is a very painstaking process, to say the least.
Just get that Brightspeed fella. Keep going.
Yeah, I'll leave that alone. But the project as a whole, we installed microwave equipment racks today at all three sites that are completed. Dishes will probably be going up middle of January. That is the connectivity between the sites. Once those parts are up and connected, we can start testing the system. So that's really good news there. Ongoing conversations with fleet mapping, with the sheriff, fire chief, EMS. I've got those this week as part of Gavin's committee, and also independently with the sheriff on Thursday morning to start working through that. And that's how the system will work, how they want, when they turn a channel, what do they want it to do. Very, very complex system compared to what we have now. A lot of different tools, bells and whistles that we can utilize if we choose to. So that's kind of where we are now. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Do you have any questions? Thank you. Well, pretty good. Good luck in the meeting tomorrow. All right, let's do, FY '25 draft budget calendar. Ms. Warren, please.
Very similar to last year's, the schedule that we followed last year. Starting at the end of this week, after adoption of the calendar, we will get out to the departments all of the FY '25 templates with instructions, and also outside agencies will get notified of the period for submitting. And we will give 4 weeks, similar to last year, right at 30 days for the budget request to come back to finance. On January 9th, I will note here that we have put down to review the first draft of the FY '25 compensation study on January 9th. And then from January 16th through the 31st will be the period of time where Jonathan and I will meet internally with the various departments and outside agencies and go over their budgets that they've drafted and get some questions answered. So in the February timeframe is where you see the bulk of the budget work sessions. We would have a work session on February 8th, one on February 15th, one on February 22nd, and one on February 29th, March 7th, and March 14th. And this is the same number of budget work sessions that we had last year. I will note on the schools, I have spoken to Ms. Graham and Ms. Crop, and the schools having their FY25 budget public hearing on February the 12th. And they have let me know that they will get a draft to us on February the 16th. And they also confirm that they will be able to attend the February 29th budget work session with you. So they'll present the draft budget at that February 29th work session. And then in March, on March 11th, the school board, their proposed budget adoption meeting, they'll have that on March 11th. I also noted here that we would have a proposed public hearing date of March 26th and approval of the budget on April the 9th, which I think that's within a day of what we did last year. So I'll answer any questions that you might have.
Questions, Mrs. Warren? Looks really good, Mrs. Warren. One question and then a comment, I guess. Need to be working with the schools on this. I plan on reaching out to the school board members and then the administration sometime late January so we can get ahead of this. The idea of them having a public hearing and us getting the budget after that, that doesn't work. And that's probably not what we're going to do. So we'll get some numbers early on and see if we can kind of craft and work with them a little bit. The other one that goes to this is last night at the school board meeting, they referenced that the governor was going to have some information potentially out today. Have you've seen anything? He was talking about funding, and they were talking about some of the monies may not be as abundant as they have been in the past. So
I'll do some research on that.
but
I will research that.
and
And thank
he-
you for contacting the schools, because I really was surprised about
Yeah.
when they said they could get the numbers to
No,
us.
and working with Tina and Anna, and then we had the meeting. Mr. Jewett and I had the meeting with Tina and Mr. Wingate. I mean, we'll get some numbers fast. It's a good relationship. So there you go. Anybody else have anything?
Other than,
Please.
so if the school board's gonna have their budget public hearing on the 12th, then the numbers have gotta be available
They
well
know-
before that.
But they normally, I mean, that's the thing that slightly baffles me about the way that they do their processes. It always seems like, and Gracie, yeah, we all are in agreement. They do the public hearing, then they do work sessions after the public hearing. So what they have advertised, and I'm sure that it's all legal advertisement, and there will be drafts available that evening. We'll just kind of have to work through. It does seem like a weird way to do it. I think the public hearing should be after you, like, similar to what we do, is once we have a finalized document or excuse me, a very close to finalized document, then we should have the public hearing so everybody knows exactly what we're doing. That's
The other
different.
The other one is this March 11th school board proposed budget adoption meeting.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be later after the
Tradi-
county?
It would,
Or in the same time? I'm just learning this.
and if you don't mind, I think they need to adopt a budget prior to us adopting our full budget.
Okay.
So that they submit their final application. And it always seems to me that there is, in that late February timeframe and into March, there's some curtailing of the budget just based on the revenue that Madison County is projected to receive in the upcoming fiscal year.
So the February 29th school budget work session will be a good time for dialogue before they adopt. So-
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe.
And-
We'll work on that,
And I would
please.
just note, you see the February 16th date, certainly when Jennifer and I have the schools, so that's when the school's draft budget is due to us. We'll push that out right away so you have it when we have it. And that way it gives you, what, a couple weeks or give or take 10 days or so. We can prepare based on what was sent to us for the work session on the 29th. We unfortunately can't control their public hearing date. I would to weigh in that I would like to see it in line. For example, we both pool together on insurance policies. That's a big number, and it usually comes at third or fourth week of February. So as you know, as you've gone through your budget work sessions, that could do some things in your numbers. So I think there's a way I can talk and encourage them on when they're ready to transmit their budget and when they actually maybe look to adopt. Certainly, once they adopt, that gives you, I can't remember if it's 45 or 60 days. The state code has language of when you have to act upon when they transmit that. So it's another purpose of, hey, make sure you're ready before you transmit your approved budget to us. And the numbers should match up. So I think when we have it on the 16th, we're going to push it out to all board members. So if there's any questions before the 29th that you like staff to really search those answers to make value of that time on the 29th, we're happy to do that as well. Or we will do that, excuse me.
Anybody have questions on this? Looks like a good calendar. We're all excited, and Ms. Hoffman is as well.
She coming back as a budget consultant?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, thank you, Ms. Warren.
One that I know of, so here for the legal,
We already talked about her friend. She'll be here, don't worry. We'll all remember Ms. Hoffman's comments.
I'm on two that night.
That'll be fun. We'd be glad to have you. All right, organizational meeting date. Mr. Weekly?
Yes, sir. We went back to the bylaws, and normally you all meet the first business day of the new year. So that would be the January 2nd. However, no reference of a time. It has been customary that boards set that at 9 a.m. If that still works, then, whether you want to take an official vote or have us advertise, I would like to get that on the calendar so it will be advertised.
I think January 2nd, 9 a.m. We do it the same time every year. It is consistent. It's the way to conduct business.
If you like, sir, we can strengthen your bylaws. So when you vote on your bylaws at the organizational meeting, that's some housekeeping thing that we can do quickly, until you change it, you look at it every year, we can specify first business day of the year at 9 a.m. at the auditorium.
That's what we should do.
Yes.
And make it simple. Good Lord, y'all are working on a bunch of stuff right now. Everybody good on January 2nd, 9? Good. Let's move on. 12/26 meeting. It looks like, and I know it's the day after Christmas, and there probably is not a whole lot of business. One, we'd like to drag Ms. Hoffman into one more fun meeting.
Make her earn
And
that last
it
paycheck.
shouldn't last but 3, 4, 5 hours. It does look like, though, we do have some interviews for, that
Director
Mr.
of
Weekly
911.
and Ms. Gordon have gone through, for Director of Communication. Anybody got any trouble meeting on the 26th? Let's do it and conduct business like we should. Everybody good on that?
Yes, sir.
I know, you're excited. We're gonna talk real slow, Ms. Hoffman.
I know. I feel it coming.
All right. Everybody good? All right. We do have a supplemental appropriation that was passed by the school last night. You have a letter that has been printed out and a true supplemental appropriation. It's $25,162.82. It's coming. It's insurance claim on a school bus that needed significant repairs. It is a pass-through for insurance straight to the schools. Understand the repairs have been done. You have anything to add, Mr. Weekly?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman. I mean, as you mentioned, it's an insurance claim, so when monies come in, it goes to the treasurer. So to put that back into their appropriate funding, supplemental is the appropriate action to take.
Ms. Warren, anything? Very good, thank you. Questions for either of these two folks?
And Ms. Turner's bringing it up on the board there so the public can see as well, the letter that was transmitted.
Do we have public? Gracie, there's the letter. All right, what would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the supplemental appropriation for the school board.
Second.
And just for clarification purposes, is that supplemental appropriation number 7, Jim?
Yes, that's appropriation number 7.
All right. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, thank you all. All right, let's go down this path. Ms. Hoffman, Board of Supervisor compensation.
Well, if you look at the pass-outs that Jonathan gave you, the board has not had a pay increase since 2005. So that's like 23 years without an increase. As an outgoing member, and talking to former members, it's usually an outgoing member that will propose a new raise. So anybody knows you don't get rich doing this job and you don't do it for the money, but there are a lot of long-distance travel that some people have to do for meetings. There's traveling around looking at cases. I think it's time that the board got somewhat of an increase. So I'm proposing that I'd like to see it January the 1st, 2024, but $13,000 for the chairman and $12,000 for the members.
All right. Who has, I want to say this, I'm not doing it for the money, I'm doing it for the thanks I get everywhere we go.
Exactly.
And they're normally kind of angry and fist shaking. What do y'all think about this?
Well, I'm not gonna, I don't want to consider it until budget time, but, and I appreciate it. I just came into this thing thinking that the money that we got was more like a reimbursement for my travel expenses and, you know, time and all that kind of stuff, because I never turn in an expense report for any of that stuff. I went to Caroline County last Wednesday. Goodness, it took me all day. I had just enough time to come back, throw on a tie, and then be in here till 11 o'clock at night. But that's what makes this so much fun. So yeah, I'll have to think about that. But I would like to really think about it or during budget season.
All right. I'm with him.
I have to agree. I'd like to go through it with budget season. I appreciate the gesture.
Everyone.
But, you know, I think we're going to need to see what's going to happen on the budget next year. I couldn't accept a pay increase if we have to raise taxes and/or cut positions. I just couldn't do it. We're not the U.S. Congress. They can throw money away and keep giving themselves raises.
They
But
keep making it.
yeah, they can print it. We can't. But I agree. I think budget season is probably the more appropriate time to consider that. But thank you, Ms. Hoffman. It's,
23 years, wow.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
All right, are we good on evaluating this at budget season? Is that where we want to be? Ms. Hoffman, thank you. I think
Mr.
that's.
Chairman, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
When do we classify budget season as?
We just went, were you not paying attention to the calendar? We just did the calendar. We're gonna talk about it sometime in between February 8th and the 14th, extending to the 15th. And we'll see what we can do.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
Well, I guess more specifically, do you submit the Board of Supervisors budget?
Yes,
You're
sir.
the one that creates that.
Yes, sir. I prepare with, for the county attorney, the county administration, and the Board of Supervisors budget. So that will come to you during the departmental request.
I think it
We'll
just
see
has
what
to
he
be
puts in
done
for us.
before July, and then it takes effect January 1 the following year.
No. We work off a fiscal
That-
year, so it would be July 1st
So-
would be the implementation. Where some of the increases that have been made recently, we've put specific dates upon. So if we talk about it from the 8th to the 15th, or the 26th, when we have our public hearing, it would be implemented July 1st.
Okay.
Does that work?
Possibly. I think there might be a statutory limit on it in terms of timing, but
Okay.
we can work that. This is a case of first impression for us, or at least first in 25 years kind of impression.
That sounds right.
Okay.
No, we'll work through it. It's just one more request that goes into the whole budget, and we'll see how revenue looks and then kind of start to evaluate. Anybody else got anything on this? All right. Does anybody have any discussion? All right, now let's do information and correspondence. Tell us about Comcast, Mr. Weekly.
Yes, anytime a service provider makes notice of an increase, we pass that along to the Board of Supervisors for information, as well. We're trying to get the information out to the public, the customers. Even though they're not, they're citizens, so they are our customers. So like last year, when we gave you notice, when REC were having 2 different rate increase periods, this is giving you notice that Comcast is looking to pass fee increases starting December the 20th. And they give a breakdown, I believe, on the second page of services no longer available or the new prices of those services. So this is a public announcement, if you will, or a public information campaign. For those who may be Comcast customers, you can contact Comcast directly. This document lives on our website because it's part of the board packet, so it's an informational item for the board members. Again, sometimes citizens feel like they can call you direct and ask questions or maybe advocate for them versus calling the actual utility provider. So it's information to make you aware of the increase, sir.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Weekly, on this?
Other than, so we don't, as a county, we don't utilize Comcast or Infinity for anything, is there?
We do have a business line
But
for
that's
Mr.
not
Hillstrom.
part of this.
No, we would pay, I'd have to go look and see. We'll contact them since you raised that question. Very good question. I don't think you have HBO down there, but I'll look to see if it's internet
We need
is
to
in here.
connect
The
and
thing with
connect.
Comcast is, and I haven't had them in years now. I'm one of those customers that desperately need internet. But they like you to bundle, or they'll offer even basic packages will have extra things. So we'll check to see what's in our commercial line. I do know it's primarily for internet. They're not down there watching Red Zone or nothing like that. But definitely we have internet through them. That's something that if we look for our capital to expand our fiber network, like we did the 410 and 414 addresses, then certainly we would look to move them away from Comcast to our own fiber, but our fiber does not exist there at that time. So I will follow up Supervisor Yao and the rest of the members to see if this increase affects that business line. Good question.
All right.
You have Comcast, I assume, Ms. Hoffman.
I do.
Dustin, do you have Comcast?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Jim, I'm sure doesn't. Cardi, we know does. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, wheel.
You just got electricity last month.
Yeah, it's really nice, too.
All right. Anybody else got anything on that one? All right, tell us about Congresswoman Spanberger's office hours.
Yes, sir. Again, more public campaign, if you will. It's not uncommon. I know at the congressional level, Scott Leak used to do this for Congressman Hurt. Chris Snyder was doing this for Congressman Good. Sean Meredith reached out for Congresswoman Spanberger's office to say, hey, we'd like to have constituent hours. Can we use your facility? We feel like constituents of Madison should be able to use this place as their office hours, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level. So again, we're just raising awareness that someone from her office will be here for constituents an hour, it's not hours, it's 1 to 2, that they can meet with them. Again, we're trying to get awareness out. If the admin conference room gets overcrowded, we have a lot of people they know to move in here. we've already made them aware of that. So for folks who have questions or want to talk directly, I know it's always easy to reach your local representatives, but we encourage folks, pass those questions along, ask them directly of those representatives. So just information, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Just one day.
One day,
One
they
hour.
normally make us aware. The last time, I remember sometimes,
Looking at it like, oh, yeah.
sometimes Mr. Snyder would use the tourism building, and I never forget, it's when we were withdrawing from Afghanistan. He was desperately, that was his task, reaching in how to get people safely, I don't know if it's extracted or out safely of that area. So it's a lot of services behind the scene you might not think about. And I encourage folks to talk to those legislative aides. Talk to your representative, but those aides, they do a lot of things behind the scenes. So it's not uncommon for folks to come to town. We're just making you aware of it when we know.
Excellent. All right, anybody else have anything on that? All right, public comment?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman,
oh,
I do
dude,
have
yes.
one information item. Both Ms. Warren and I have been working closely with the sheriff's office, particularly with a service contract with a provider known as Axon. I always get that incorrect and say Exxon. This is Axon, not the petroleum company. Axon is who we have goods and services with, particularly when you're looking at drones, you're looking at tasers, you're looking at body cams, dash cams, and the services and the software that goes with that. We have 3 different contracts now. The sheriff's office has been working with that provider. They feel it's better to consolidate those contracts. We agree with that, as well as take advantage of renewing that. That existing contract was entered into in 2020, would expire in 2025 if you were to wait and maybe not choose to re-up or extend. Axon and the sheriff's office has worked together. They have suggested a renewal, which would hit that reset now and then a new 5 years. What we believe, it's over $100,000 in savings of that new contract period. There would be price increases if you did nothing. This takes an advantage of renewing some of your equipment. For example, last year, the sheriff's office was looking to maybe add tasers in their capital item. And that was one of the areas, we had to say no, because you look at the budget overall, this contract would provide for some of those, what we would call capital assets. So you have some lease and you have some capital that's involved in this, but this would allow you to reset the contract. It is sole source. I wanted to bring this information tonight. New contract, it's definitely something that, we'll bring to the board. I think if the board is fine with my plan, we would have financial review, which really has been done at this point. We would have legal review to make sure it's meeting any criteria there. And if you're fine, then my plan would be to go ahead and sign the renewal with them and take advantage of the savings. I will say, though, there is an operational cost, and thankfully Jennifer was able to kind of negotiate down. Initially, I think they were looking for $50,000 to be billed to us in March for some of this newer equipment as part of the lease. She has negotiated it down to a $5,000 impact this current fiscal year that we're in. However, there would be some additional monies in FY '25. So again, I don't know if there's anything, an additional
I got the phone call. That's a long way to negotiate, Ms. Warren. $121,000 discount?
We would have been happier with 4.
What do you,
Yes, ma'am. Does anybody have any trouble with this? Questions, thoughts?
and we have the information I can have Ms. Warren send out to you all tomorrow to take a closer review. I just didn't, even if you were fine with the administrative approach, I didn't want you to be sticker shock during budget time about some monies being spread out. And that's not uncommon for leases. Obviously, this isn't a lease that's the same as a copier machine, But in those lease periods, you do have the option sometimes to renew within the existing period. Again, I think if you waited to 2025, there is increases of significance.
The savings is $170,000.
So being it's an existing vendor, they're sole source, if you're fine with, it fits our financial policy, the justifications there, it meets the procurement threshold. If it meets legal review, the question is, are you fine with me executing that renewal?
Everybody good on this? Everybody? Yes, let's
All
go.
right, then what
Thank
we'll
you,
do
Ms.
is-
Warren.
Hey, that'll cover our raises.
Well, they go up. I think the course of the contract will go up to, I know it's under $1 million, but it's above $750,000. Yeah.
Good Lord. We did see the sheriff's drones up there at the fire, so at least they have them.
And this also gives support to the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, I believe. They're involved in some of the review.
Right, so it all feeds into this Axon sort of database that organizes it, and then if it turns out that there's a criminal charge, DUI, whatever, then it turns into both Commonwealth evidence and then discovery for defendant to see, and then maybe eventually a jury to see. So it's used in the criminal prosecutions in addition just to the normal day-to-day of the sheriff's office.
And in speaking with the sheriff's office today, they have said pull that $5,000 from their budget, so. All right, I think we know the next step, so thank you for allowing me to cover that tonight. Thank you, Ms. Warren and Mr. Wright.
All right, public comment. Public comment. No public comment. All right, and we don't have a closed session this evening. What do y'all want to do?
Move to adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you
Merry
all.
Christmas.
That's right.
That's right.
I gotta go get my Charlie Brown tree.
Friday, 12 o'clock, Friday.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, I need new snow tires.
Miss Warren, next time I buy a company vehicle, I'll buy a big.
This conference is no longer being recorded.
Yeah, we don't get good news that very often, do we?